All right, everybody, welcome back to the Surfside Recovery Podcast. I'm Brian Licata, alongside the Executive Director, Head Honcho, Grand Poobah, Ian Koch.
Something like that.
Fearless Leader. You remember Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Yeah.
Natasha and Boris, and they had Fearless Leader.
The Fearless Leader.
Yeah, Fearless Leader. That's you, Fearless Leader.
Something like that.
So if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're on Apple Podcasts.
Which is the best? If someone was going to subscribe to one.
I think it'd be the Facebook page.
Why?
Because the Facebook page has a lot of our pictures on it. Not all of them, but it has a lot of the pictures. And the full episodes of the podcast are on Facebook, along with like news articles, blog articles, and things like that. I think that's the best.
Facebook/Structured Sober Living.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the handle. I think it's Structured Sober Living. And if you want to check us out on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can throw your phone on the ground while you're going to reach for something. Just type in Surfside Recovery Podcast. So we got these really cool new business cards too. If you're around town, check it out. This is it right here. So today we're going to talk about dating in recovery, a topic I'm very excited about. And I know you are too. We both.
You love dating.
I do. I love dating my girlfriend. I'm happy I'm dating her.
I'm married. Very happy to be married.
So I think it's going to be a good topic because the person I'm dating is in recovery. I've also dated early in recovery and wrongfully in recovery. So how do you think we should start this topic? Should we segment it down into like good dating in recovery, bad dating in recovery, dating in not early recovery?
There's a line in the AA Big Book that talks about basically acting out on a senseless series of sprees.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another part in some of the literature that basically says we're restless, irritable, discontent unless we can experience the sense of ease and comfort that comes at once by taking a few drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Or the proverbial drink. So I think, my experience is that there's really three things that people are going to experience when they get sober. And again, just because you're abstinent doesn't mean alcoholism or addiction is quote unquote treated. So they're going to act out. And there's three major ways people are going to act out. One is spending money, neurotically shopping. That's the one that I tend to go to.
Right. Yeah, me too.
The other one is food.
Mm-hmm.
You will see men develop eating disorders where they get on crazy diets and they need 9 million supplements and they've got to be in the gym 3 hours a day to make the exterior look better.
I've seen that happen too.
And then you also have women who will either...
Sometimes all three at the same time.
Well, I mean, women will either develop eating disorders where they starve themselves or they'll overeat. I mean, men will overeat as well, but they tend to hide that, I think, easier as men.
Uh-huh.
Women tend to eat a lot and they can blow up, or they can starve themselves and do the bulimic anorexic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third would be sex.
Mm-hmm.
And hooking up and trying to neurotically date and taking advantage of people and things of that nature. And sometimes it's legit taking advantage of people, and sometimes it's, the take two to tango thing, and everybody's ready to tango. So
yeah, the one thing I will say that was different about Surfside when I went through this time was the staff at the program at that time made it clear that I wasn't supposed to be talking or doing anything with any women until, what was it?
6 months, we recommend.
6 months?
Which even like in 12-step recovery, the recommendation is typically a year.
Right.
But we're also dealing with men in their 20s.
Right. 6 months is a little more...
So even 6 months is tough for people.
Yeah, but I actually took that seriously this go around. And I don't know if that's a product... I can't remember if other programs I was in had that same... They may or may not have. Either way, I didn't listen to it. But this time, going around, I listened to it.
In day 181, you had a girlfriend.
No, I was the girl I'm dating now.
You were the girl?
No,
Oh.
the girl I'm dating now. She and I went out on our first date the day after Christmas. Not this past Christmas, the Christmas before. So I would have been, I was 9 months sober.
Okay.
So I had gone out with a couple girls previously before that, like just on like a date here, a date there, and like it didn't work out for whatever reason. But I started dating her. Our first date would have been the day after Christmas, and both of us are in the program. And I wasn't sure. I always said when I got sober, I don't know if I want to date a girl in AA, this reason or that reason. And it's worked out really well. She works a good program. I think I work a good program too. So there's not. It's really the first healthy relationship I've ever been in with a woman, and I think that's partly because that I take care of my own stuff too.
Do you know I've had legit dating suggestions for men, like a very clear process, my recommendations?
No, this is surprisingly the first time I've ever heard this before. So let's hear these. You're like the hitch for recovery.
So, yeah, right. So typically what happens, and it's not just specific to drug addicts and alcoholics, but specifically what happens is people hook up. They meet that night, they sleep together, they find themselves in a relationship. Within a month to 2 months, one of them realizes they can't stand the other one.
Right.
But their sex is kind of okay, so they stay in the relationship for a period of time. And then all of a sudden somebody wants to kill somebody, and then they just avoid each other and break up.
Mm-hmm.
So that pattern tends to happen over and over and over. And so my suggestions that I've given to many people and also tried to follow myself would that be that you, first 3 dates, no sex. Date number 1 and 2 during the day. Coffee, a walk, something of that nature.
I'm a big fan of a coffee date.
Coffee dates are great because if she's psycho, you're only dealing with a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's very true.
You can get out pretty easily.
You can get out fast, but it's also like the environment's relaxed, and like you said, it's not like a big time commitment thing. And if you're enjoying it, you can decide to go get something to eat. You can extend it or cut it. Me and my girlfriend went out on a bunch of coffee dates. We still do. She's in school now, so sometimes I'll just meet her for a quick cup of coffee, whether it's at Starbucks or somewhere else. She'll be doing her homework, and I pop in. We have a cup of coffee. I hang out for like a half hour, and then we go do our thing. So, but we followed. I think it was even more than 3 dates. We went out on a bunch of like daytime dates. So it was like the diner, coffee shop. Sure. Our first date was at Los Amigos in Atlantic City, and that was like a lunchtime thing.
Is that place good?
I don't like it. No. It's very gringo Spanish food. I don't like that. I like real Spanish.
The Mexican place in Summers Point's really good.
What, Tipico? I don't like that.
You don't like that one either?
Is that the one that's next to the pizza place?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Really? Chimichangas, they're great.
Mambo Cafe in Pleasantville. If you haven't been there, check it out.
Mambo's good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I think you're right. I think that for really anybody in recovery or out of recovery, that's the way to do it. I think that what I noticed with drug addicts in particular is they go too hard, too fast. And that was always my MO in the past, that I always say it like this. I could be on a bus commuting from work and I see some girl sitting there and don't even talk to her. And I've already named our first 3 children and where we're going to live and what we're going to do. And I wouldn't even have said a word to her.
And that's
I don't know if that's normal, but it's
normal.
No.
It's normal for guys and girls in recovery.
Okay,
that's normal.
Guys and girls in recovery.
Nobody wants to talk about it because nobody wants to sound crazy, but the reality of it is that's normal.
Yeah, I've said it to some of my friends, and they're like, yeah, I do.
Or
that.
like within 3 dates, you're like, this is the girl, or it's meant to be forever. So my recommendation would be that like if you make it to a 3rd date, that's the date you kiss, and then you try to not have actual sex until you've been dating for about a month. Because then you actually can determine if you have anything in common with the person, if you actually like them, before getting all flustered with the sex piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was actually at a conference once in Vermont, and it was a 12-step based young people's conference, and they actually did a speed dating. They called it something different, but basically it was speed dating.
At the conference?
Yeah, at the conference.
Was it a was it a YPod conference?
Yeah, it was a young people's conference. It was a huge hit.
The speed dating was.
The speed dating.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never. The only experience I've ever had with speed dating is in movies.
I mean, this was also prior to Tinder. Tinder is like speed dating, if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Huh. So they sat you guys down, what, like in a conference room or something like that?
It was my idea, but I actually didn't participate because I had a girlfriend at the time, so I didn't really need to. But I was on the committee that put that conference on, and yeah, they just had tables, did it just like speed dating. I think I'm not sure if the girls or guys sat down, but somebody sat down, and boom, every couple of minutes you just move, and that was that.
So what would you, if you had to illustrate healthy versus unhealthy relationships in recovery? So now we're past the point, right? We're past the point of, that month, 2 months, or whatever it is, your waiting period or whatever. Let's talk like 6 months down the line on both sides. What does that look like?
So I would never want to have to ask permission to do anything in a relationship.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's different than like letting my wife know, like, hey, I'm not going to be home tonight because I'm doing blank, or I'm going to be out later because I'm doing blank, is different than, can I stay out late to do blank?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like before we started recording this podcast, I called my girlfriend and asked her if it was okay. Because people who watch this are going to know who she is, and maybe they didn't know she was in recovery or not. You know what I mean? So I called her and said, hey, we're going to do a podcast about dating and recovery. Do you mind if I talk about you? That's a little bit different. I feel like I should ask permission for something like that.
Yeah, but that's called effective communication.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think the downfall with newcomers in addiction is they start going to meetings together.
Right.
As a date. Mm-hmm. And then they start trying to sponsor each other. Mm-hmm. Which is a problem. Or one of them's like solid in recovery and has a sponsor and is doing the deal, and then the other one is not. Mm-hmm. So then they're constantly trying to help that one, and then that one starts going to them for advice, and next thing you know, they're sitting in the meeting together and they're holding hands, and like, kill me. It's the worst.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let me just be clear. If you're new in recovery and you're sitting in a meeting, holding hands with your partner, everybody is watching you and everybody is judging you. Surefire way to get a target on your back as someone who's probably not serious. Just saying. It's almost as good as like nodding out in a meeting.
Me and my
like
girlfriend.
Like, seriously. Like, I've literally seen people like laying practically on top of each other in meetings.
Yeah,
like,
I've seen it too.
Get over yourself.
I just don't really give it any passing thought. It doesn't bother me. Same
you
thing.
Also were in South Florida for a while.
Me?
Weren't you?
No, I never went to Florida. I wanted
California?
to go to Florida. Not sober.
Oh.
Jersey, North Carolina, Maryland, Jersey, PA, Philly too.
Either way, I'm saying it's bad.
Yeah.
It's my vote.
It just doesn't bother me.
Ugh, it's so tacky.
Yeah. No, I agree with you that it is tacky, but it just doesn't.
It's like, save it for later. Christ.
I think you hit some good points though, saying how like somebody could be, well sponsored and doing stuff, and other person's not really all that active. I think one of the reasons why my relationship has been so successful is because we both have our separate AA functions. We do a lot of stuff together, but the majority of it's separate. Like, we go out to eat, we fellowship together. Some of like the girls she's friends with have now become my friends, and vice versa. But when it comes down to it, like something big's going on, she calls her sponsor. She doesn't call me. If it's something that I need to know about, she'll call and tell me about it at some point. But there's that separation. And then we've also gone on trips together where it's like, hey, I went down to a wedding for one of my cousins down in Maryland, and it was actually a really funny story. So We drive down. We're both starving. We get some real crappy Mexican food. I kind of parked. It was in downtown in Frederick, Maryland. You all right over there?
I'm good.
Okay. So we're in downtown Frederick. I parked the car.
There's a great tattoo artist in Frederick. Just saying.
Oh, next time I won't. I'll go and I will not get a tattoo. My mom does not want me to have any tattoos, so I have none. So
Tell that to Nick's mom.
yeah, we're in a little bit of a different situation, I think.
Bonnie, if you're watching this, it's not my fault that Nick has tattoos. Just saying.
So we're in Frederick, right? And we go out to eat, and then we're like looking up, like, hey, maybe we'll go to a meeting. Like I always like going to meetings in different areas. By the way, did I tell you one when I was in Philly yesterday? I'll tell you about it later. So, I like look it up, and I'm like looking where it is on the map, and I just so happened that I parked my car almost right in front of the church that it was at, just by chance. Like, oh, we definitely have to go. Because the way it worked is I parked down some side street and we walked to the restaurant, maybe 15 blocks. And by the time we got back, we were like, oh, we definitely have to go.
Sure.
So we do stuff like that every now and again, But that was really all I have to say about that.
Me and my wife rarely do 12-step recovery together.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe on a circumstance like that.
Right, yeah,
out
of town.
But like I don't know her sponsor. I don't care. It's a non-issue. I mean, I think the difference too though is I think she's been sober like 9 years, give or take, 8, 10, something like that. I actually think she just celebrated 9. I just celebrated 14 years. It's so different at this stage versus when I was early in recovery. Like right. I remember being like really on fire with the step work and things, and like it's all I knew to talk about. So I'm like, dating these girls, and like all we're talking about is the steps and recovery and meetings and fellowship, and the sad part about it, and it's why they recommend don't date in the first year, like as kind of a standard in 12-step recovery, is because you don't even know who you are.
Right.
It's why when same ideas, like when folks get sober, they tend to talk about war stories because they don't have anything else to talk about.
Right.
It's not that they're like trying to romanticize getting high.
That's what their life has been for the past X number of years.
They don't have anything else.
Right.
I mean, what are they going to talk about? Like the sports or the weather? They haven't been paying attention to any of that. And
I can remember sitting in rehab and people would be talking about some sort of Super Bowl or World Series, and I was like,
huh?
I was like, they won the World Series? I think it was when the Giants won the World Series, and I was like, when did they win? Like it was like last season, like 2 months ago. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
No idea. And so, in early recovery, that's tough. I think, and then you hear the like people who are new in recovery say things like, well, I'm never going to date in recovery and date somebody in recovery and whatever. Like I say it all the time, like, meeting a girl or a guy in a 12-step program is like shopping in the dented can aisle. Like chances are, it may just be the packaging that's damaged. It could be spoiled goods altogether. You just, you got to be careful and you got to go slow. And we're people who don't know how to go slow.
Right.
My experience dating girls not in recovery is that, like, I remember I was dating this girl who her dad was actually in AA, so she understood what 12-step recovery was about. And I remember something happened. She came over. I don't know what the deal was, but I kissed her hello, and I could taste the booze on her breath.
Okay.
And I said, like, have you been drinking? And she said, oh, I had like a drink before I came over. And I just couldn't get past it.
Right.
Like, I don't ever want to use again. Like, I don't. And maybe that's the difference between me. Like, I watch a lot of newcomers do really dumb things. Like hang out with people who drank, like on the regular, not like a random family occasion, but like on the regular. Or they're hanging out in like the casinos, or they're going to the bar to play pool type of nonsense. And like, I want nothing to do with that. Like, I couldn't date somebody who was drinking or using. Like, I desperately, with all of my being, want to stay clean.
Mm-hmm.
So my actions need to represent that. I, at 14 years sober, with all my credentials, master's degree and other credentials, like I'm not beyond the fact that like, yes, I believe I've recovered, but I'm not beyond the fact that if I stop doing certain things that I could unrecover real quick.
Right.
I'll unravel at the seams, quite honestly. I'm convinced of it.
I don't think anybody in this county wants to see that happen.
No, I mean, I don't have time for that either. So for me, like, I couldn't be with her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I know people who,
I have a good friend of mine who just got married over the past couple of years, and he's been sober for a while, kind of close to the same amount of time that you have. And his wife isn't an alcoholic. She used to drink, and he's like, yeah, listen, if we're going to be together, like, you have to stop drinking.
and it's a non-issue because she's not alcoholic.
Non-issue.
I mean, we have a mutual friend. He's been sober 20. I think he just celebrated 22 or 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his wife has an occasional glass of wine now and again, and it's a non-issue for them, and that's great. So it's not that it can't be done,
Mm-hmm.
but I think more so, like, really talking to folks in early recovery, you know, they've got to be mindful. You know, this is, for a lot of us, this is life and death. And, like, I get you want to get laid, but, I mean, shit, at what expense?
Right.
And the second, as a newcomer, like, the second you're telling yourself that you're in the clear,
Mm-hmm.
or that, like, you're going to be okay, that's trouble.
Right.
Like, that's real trouble. You know, like, I got a fish thing hanging, you know, and I'm going to go see fish a bunch this summer.
Right.
But never at one point will I think, like, oh, I'm good, I got this. Like, I'm in the clear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, when I go, I'm really mindful. Like, I don't shake hands of strangers. Like, I don't,
Right.
like, I fist bump everybody. Like, if somebody wants, like, I'm not going to, like, these idiots who are all stoned and like, oh, hugs for free. Like, get off me. Don't touch me.
Right.
I don't, you know what I mean?
It was funny. I was like that when I was in Philly yesterday, because I got high in Philly for a long period of time.
Yeah, like,
and I'm like constantly, and I was in a pretty decent neighborhood, but I was still like, you know, looking, and then mindful of the route that I took home, that I was like straight back over the bridge.
Yeah, like, it's,
You know, because I don't need to be wandering too far north.
no, and so like, it talks about it, and I think that's really important. On page 84 in the big book, it talks about sanity will have returned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is probably the most sane thinking you've had in months.
Yeah.
In months and months and months. Hey.
My girlfriend also said that
My dog's snoring.
she
Sorry.
watched the podcast where Charlie was sitting on your lap.
Oh, yeah. A couple
and-
people have mentioned that. They're like, did you just throw your dog?
She said that Charlie needs his own segment.
His own segment?
Yeah, his own segment.
Well, he's sound asleep right now.
Yeah.
Well, I just woke him up, and now looking at me looks mad. There's a couch right over there. So when I tossed him in that one episode, I tossed him onto the couch, which I do quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how annoyed he looks.
It's pissed.
Yeah, he's like, why'd you just wake me up, dude? So yeah, I think when sanity returns, you start to really incorporate this into your life.
Mhm.
If you're new in recovery and you're gambling and trying to pick up girls and go into the club, like,
It's just not a good look.
No.
Yeah, not a good look.
And not for nothing, there's very few of those people. I mean, out of the last couple of years you've been down here, like, there's
Mhm.
very few of those people that have actually stayed sober.
Yeah,
Very,
not,
very few.
Not many.
So to think that, like,
Yeah, almost none of them.
yeah,
Almost,
it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
What are we at on time?
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up.
All right.
So, was there any? I think that was it. I think that's it. I want to be able to, like, wrap these up a little more.
Pizzazz?
Yeah, a little more pizzazz. Grab Charlie. Get Charlie some FaceTime.
Nah, I don't want to.
No? Everyone likes Charlie. So if you haven't done so yet, please, add us on your Apple Podcast app. Hopefully by the time this episode's out, we will be on Spotify. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Surfside NJ, Twitter, Surfside SSL, or check us out on Facebook at Structured Sober Living. Also, if you or anybody you know is struggling with addiction, you want somebody to talk to, bounce some ideas off of, you can email Ian directly at structuredsoberliving@gmail.com. He gets those emails and he'll get back to you as soon as he can. Thanks for watching. I'm not sure what the next topic we're going to have up for you, but it will be out after this one. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Charlie.